Hello, everyone. Welcome to What's Really Out There. I had already mentioned to everybody on the call that it's going to be. I feel like we were kind of running the course has run its what is it called? The course has run its course. So confusing. It's like course twice. But it seems as though we still have quite a few questions that are already unanswered or previously unanswered. So we're gonna dig into that. This one's an interesting one, and I hope it doesn't bring an offense to you. But somebody had asked, what ETs should we call on for help? None. There is no ET that I can class, even if there's positive beings out there, you do not call out and ask for help from anyone. Why? Because when you activate the call, anybody can answer it. Okay? By saying, I'm looking for this external, beings other than myself come and help. Even if you set the intention that good aliens come, essentially what you've said is aliens. You've all heard of the law of attraction, the secret. I will not be late boils down to be late, right? So you do not reach out to any aliens. That doesn't mean that you can't have help from external beings. That is a possibility, but they do have to come through your higher self. And so they will come on their own time. And you might not get to meet them, so to speak, for a period of time. Guess how they generally will come through to you if they are allowed. What about specifically calling an ascended master? I would not call an ascended master. I would not call anybody other than my higher self. I know that sounds limiting, and I understand that like ascended masters are here to help. I don't know. Ascended master could convert to the negative side just as easily as they can convert to the positive side. You just don't know. But what I can say to you is that when you call out, anybody can answer. That's a part of the concept of the law of free will. How do aliens reach out to you? I'm talking about Vicky hit it, dreams. First contact with an alien will most likely be through your dreams. Now, you've heard me say in the past, if you remember your dreams, that might not be so good, which is also in the sense that you haven't finished healing, whatever it is. It's not terrible. It's not bad. I guess that came out mistakenly. But one of the things that I can say to you is that when you do remember your dream, what is the truth about it? Always, even if it's like, oh, hey, this was just an alien coming to make chat with you. Great. What's the truth about it? What am I supposed to get from this? Okay. Do aliens exploit weaknesses? I mean, anything that's in a higher density than us potentially has a possibility to exploit a weakness, which is why we do not call out. Remember, I spoke to you guys last time about the difference between, oh, no, I didn't. That was a completely different call. Okay, the call where we talked about entities, right? They have the capacity to exploit a weakness, but they can only do so to whisper to you, make you feel or think, not really make you feel or make you think, but like make you get there on your own. So if it's a negative thing, for example, I can't do something negative to you, but I can make you think negative thoughts. I can influence you to think negative thoughts. Now, I've always explained it like this. Your house is, heated or cooled, depending, right? But if you didn't have a heater or an air conditioner, if it's cold outside, it's going to get cold inside. That's the influence that I'm talking about. You can always wrap up in a blanket, right? But it's going to influence the space around you. So they can whisper, and they will whisper through weakness. Now, more especially if you call out. Now, here's the difference. And this is why I said, as strongly as I can possibly say it, don't call out, because then you're giving them permission. They don't have to whisper. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I mean by that? They don't have to whisper if you give them permission. What does that mean? Bunches of things. I've always hesitated to talk about this because I was afraid that people would be a little scared about what it ended up being. But there was a lady that I had known, and in fact, this person's making it into my book, and I portrayed them in a lot more of a positive side, a visual than they were. Basically, this particular person was possessed. I'd mentioned it before, and this particular person placed their hands on me, and then they were trying to evict me from my body because they called out and said help or whatever they actually said, I don't know. And anybody can, of course, come in. And I'm more inclined to come in if I'm negative than positive because I want to take your car and take it for a ride, drive it around, maybe crash it. You know what I mean? So don't call out. I've known a couple of people who have called out. Under both cases, the consequence was pretty severe. Hers was the most severe I've ever seen. I physically, with my eyes, saw the being, and it was not cute. It kind of looked like, the best I can explain it to is like a Tasmanian devil, I guess. Not not the actual animal, but the Looney Tunes version that's like swirling around, kind of crazy looking. Do not call out. When you had contact with an alien, how did that come about? Yeah, so I have had contact with aliens both physically and in the spiritual realm, we'll call it. The physical one was more, I just happened upon them on in and around me. And I had an organite pendant on. If you guys have you've seen me, I recommended those many times. That was the only thing that saved me. Hear me when I say that. They cannot deal with the positive energy or the positive prana or chi that is emitted from those. And so, not that they're coming out to get you, he wants to be left alone, right? But if he had any inclination to come to get you, that is the thing that saved me. And if you guys don't know, Jessica, my roommate, has also had interactions with aliens in a lot more of a they actually talked and conversed way. It was kind of a little weird, but she also had her organite pendant on that day as well. Um, I'm not saying go buy organite pendants. I am saying go buy organite pendants. Do what you want. If you are interested in buying an organite pendant, I always recommend Stardust Alchemy on Google. The guy who makes the stuff is called Gabriel, and I only recommend him because I know his stuff is good. I don't make commission. I don't even know the guy. I just know his stuff is good. I always carry something of his around with me as well. So aliens. The alien where I was actually communicating with them in a grander way, like, full on contact. That was interesting. He wasn't my friend, but as I'd mentioned to you, higher self is going to be the one that approves or denies the contact. Your higher self is going to give permission or not, which means if the permission was granted, it was in your highest good. Okay. So he presented himself. It was a male, I guess. He was probably about the size of I don't know, 3 feet, maybe a little less, not very tall. I have a photo. We found a photo and we kind of manipulated it with Photoshop until it looked more like him. He came into Jessica's consciousness, of course, with permission, and he introduced himself. He gave him the soul group or the soul name, or if maybe it was his actual name. I'm pretty sure it was his soul group. And I don't remember what he said to her. She had a conversation with him that I couldn't recall. And then over the course of time, I was like, hey, I'd like to have a conversation, with him. And so a few years ago, I'd probably say around 2016, maybe 2017, somewhere in that range, higher self finally agreed. Of course, I asked, I was like, am I allowed to have a conversation with the guy that, Jessica was approved to talk to? And it took a while, but eventually higher self's like, yes. And so I got to meet him. And for me, the channeling is going to change depending on, your translation. It's going through your higher self always, right? But the channeling is going to sound a little different or be a little different depending on who you're talking to. The best example I can give to you is everybody's talking to the sun. What does the sun sound like when it talks to you? If you want to chat that into the group, let me know. But what the sun sounds like when it talks to me reminds me of Santa Claus, jolly, happy, kind of like exuberant, kind of warm. And obviously the sun's hot, but I mean like the energy is personally, it was warm. But that's what the sun is like for me. But it might be differently for you, which means it comes through your channel, through your higher self. For me, the alien that we're talking about, the group that they had come from was named Epsilon. It's a the Greek letter. And when I was talking to him, he kind of reminded me of the expandedness that I experienced when I spoke to Jesus. It was like really expanded, in the sense that when I heard him speaking, it was the best way that I can explain this to kind of give you guys a perspective that we all understand is on the movie The Little Mermaid. When Ursula got really, really big, she started sounding deep and her voice started to slow down, expanded. That's what I felt. Now, I didn't hear him, but that's how I felt the messages coming through, just really expanded. Like I was in a very, very large room and I was trying to absorb messages in a very big way. It was beyond my conscious expansion, at least at that time. I haven't talked to him since then, so maybe it's different now. I don't know. But that's how it felt. Do I even remember what we talked about? I have absolutely no idea. It was, like I said, 2016, 2017, somewhere around that time. So I have no clue what we even talked about. Did I write it down? What I used to do back in the day was I used to record on my phone these deep tune-ins and channelings and stuff like that of me talking and speaking. Sometimes they happened with my phone not near me, so it just didn't happen. So unfortunately, I have no idea as to what happened during. But I will close up this particular conversation, this part of the conversation, with do not reach out at all. Anything can come through. And I'm definitely not interested, and I assume you're not interested either, in anything taking over me. What's the harm? What can it do? That lady ended up dying. You can't have two souls in one body. They create they war, so to speak, and then the body can't handle it, so they die. Or when you channel higher self or tune into higher self, you're not actually tuning into your higher self. You're tuning into something negative, something that's standing behind you, in front of you, and between you and your higher self. That's all fixable. It is all fixable. There's just a bunch of methods that you could use to bring yourself back from this, but it is something that you do need to come back from, unless it is a part of your life lesson and you did decide to experience that in this lifetime, which, to be honest, I'm going to just generalize. I don't think that's the case. Although I can't speak for everybody. I can speak for, the majority. In this particular case, not most people did not come in to experience being hijacked or possessed. That just sounds ridiculous to me. So do not reach out. Does that mean that every time you reach out, you're going to get attacked? No, it doesn't. It happens when it happens, if it happens. Just protect yourself. But like I said, I encourage you to do the same thing, because it's complicated to come back from that. Now look at the lady that I was talking about. She ended up dying. I'd mentioned to everybody that I talked to this about, she was probably one of the healthiest people I've ever seen in my life. The only thing she consumed was organic, clean, home fresh, homegrown, heirloom stuff. She wouldn't even wash her dishes with tap water. It had to have been washed in reverse osmosis or distilled, or you know what I'm saying? Like something clean. She was insane. She had air filters in every single corner of the building that we were working in. She had everything that you could imagine. Yet she's one of the most sick people I've ever experienced. Why? Because she called out. Crazy stuff. Don't do it. And if you called out through your higher self, which is what I said, I tried. That's how I got to speak to Epsilon in the first place. But higher self doesn't have to agree. It doesn't have to be in your highest good. If you're asking higher self's going to be like, nah, that's not in your highest good. Let's just forgo this for now. It took a while for me to get my higher self to say yes to Epsilon. So you kind of just have to let it be what it is. Now, I will be, repeat from the beginning of this part of this call. It will most likely happen in your dreams. And your ego conscious logical mind will say, oh, that's not satisfying. I want to talk. Well, I understand that, but it will most likely happen in your dreams. And one of the things that you can do to make sure that not make sure, but like to encourage it to happen more is focus on true self-love. And I mean that in the sense that a lot of times people who channel beings like aliens, for example, tend to get a little, what's the word that I'll use? Arrogant. I know it all. I am in communication with an alien. That will push them so much further away from you that you won't talk to them ever. So be in that space of self-love, true unconditional love, and you'll have more of a chance to speak to an alien. If you call in a specific person like Jesus, do you open yourself up to it? Yes, you do, Elena. If you call in anything, if you say, I call out for, etc., Jesus, Papa Sambhava, whatever, you're saying anybody can come through the door. The door has to open for the call to make it out. And that door opening allows people in. It doesn't matter who you are talking to. We think we're asking for help externally, but it actually was us. So your question was, isn't it looking for validation outside of yourself by calling on anyone else? It is. Now, what's interesting here is where we start to get really, really, really confusing. Isn't that other being you're calling on you anyway? So therein lies the rub. It's complicated. There isn't some, this isn't, on and off or black and white. There's a lot more of a nuance to understanding how this stuff works, right? Now, what you are doing is calling, in the case of a negative being, you are calling on a negative version of yourself. And the negative version of yourself is no different than you. You want to live in the highest possible vibration that you can. They want to live in the highest possible vibration that they can. And your path to that is this, and their path to that is that. So they're going to affect you in a negative way. It's not a bad thing. It's a lesson. You just didn't learn it this particular time, and you will get it the next time. I have a very serious question for everybody. Answer this. Tell me what you think about this. In this lesson, in this lifetime, in the positive polarity that we're in, we understand the negatives, the lessons, right? You got sick, you had a money issue, you got a car accident, whatever. What are the positive, what are the negatives experiencing? Do they get flat tires? Do they get sick? What is a negative being experienced in terms of their catalyst? I can tell you, it's easy. Love. They look back at the third density, just like the fourth density positive does, and sees the sadness. They look back and see the love. How can I quash it? Elena, loss of control and power. Well, yeah, in a sense, but it's always been known that being a negatively polarized being is a lot harder than being a positively polarized being. And so they're more inclined to not lose control than we are more inclined to let it go. For them, it's so much more drastic, right? So theirs is looking back and seeing light that they can put out. I've mentioned a couple of times over the course of the year that if you have any light inside of you, if you try to shine in any way whatsoever, you have a target on your back. They want to put it out because it helps them. Isn't that kind of like jealousy? Looking at it from a perspective of why am I doing this? They're doing it because it helps them, simply put. That's it. I don't know. This is a question that I've never asked before. Does jealousy exist in the fourth density? The answer to that question is no, it doesn't, because they're aware, they know. This is the third density, which is not the density of knowing, but the fourth density is the density of knowing. You know everything because everybody's connected in a telepathic nature. And of course, you're connected to your higher self in a lot more drastic of a way. So does jealousy exist in a higher density? It doesn't. Something else does, though. Sadness, sorrow, for the positive at least. This is a bit of a difficult. We kind of weaved and bobbed and weaved until we found out. This is interesting. It always ends up being related to ascension, which is exciting for me because I have been working on different spiritual things over the course of my life. And, this one has been the one that's been the most exciting. Plus, higher self said to me, that's all I'm allowed to focus on now is helping people get through it. And part one of getting through it is understanding it. It's like, for example, I've had videos with actually some of you on the call that were actually fantastic calls where you got to ask some great questions, but I was like, I can't even post this on YouTube. How rude. Great call. But if it's not about ascension, I can't post it anymore. Higher self's very limited in that perspective. I have to help people understand the truth about the way things are working so that way when we do go over there, we're ready. Auras. Does anybody know what an aura is? Compare it to the Earth's magnetic field. An aura is like a bubble of protection. There's a lot of things to it. Energetic signature, Vicky mentioned, absolutely. Less an energetic signature and more your thermostat, how you are in the moment. And so if you've got a really strong and vibrant aura, your energy is really strong and vibrant, which means you are really strong and vibrant in that moment, which makes your protections all the better. It's interesting. The next question Eduardo asked was, are there layers? Well, in the direct sense, like the direct translation or definition of layers, no. But it does have depth, though. It does have depth. Thin or thick, depending on your mindset or your makeup or how you feel at that time. The aura is about 9 feet across, not in radius, but in diameter, 9 feet. And for those of you that are in Europe, I think it's like 2.7 meters, something of that sort, somewhere around there. But it does go in and it does go out, depending. It fluctuates, it moves, it lives, it breathes. It's you. It's the state of mind that you're in at that moment, right? So if you're really strong in yourself right now, then your aura is probably really strong too, which makes it a little bit bigger. It's about 9 feet, meaning that it could go 10 feet, it could go 6 feet, it could go 12 feet. I don't actually know. It's you. It depends on you. Probably the most solid and stable being on this planet is a really solid and big aura. How to enhance it? Well, that's a pretty intense question. Great question. but you enhance it by enhancing you, your mindset, your ability to be. If you're having a weak moment, your aura is also weak. What does that do? I mentioned to it kind of like a thermostat, but it's also like a bubble, a protector, right? It helps too. So weak mind equals weak bubble, which means we have to fortify it, which is why we do the unconditional love bubbles, right? You enhance it by enhancing where you are in that moment, your clarity, your stable, strong in self-belief, self-love. How do we feel about that, Eduardo? Awesome. Great call, great questions. I will see you in the next one.